Let's start with a hard truth that most people dodge because it's uncomfortable. The financial storyline sold to boomers was a promise dressed up as certainty. And certainty is the most seductive lie in the economy. If you think retirement is the land of warm sunsets and paid off homes, it's time to peel back the facade and look at the engine. The engine is debt, time, incentives, and information. Who had it, who didn't, and who profited from keeping people in the dark? Stay with me until the very end, because I'm going to show you the real mechanics behind why boomers are retiring broke and how the same traps are being recycled for you right now under new branding and softer language. If you want more great Angry Guy content, like, share, and subscribe. And if you're serious about protecting and safeguarding your assets and growing your wealth, if you're done with vague promises and want actual leverage, check out Angry's Crypto Academy. Learn how to buy, sell, and trade crypto the right way with clarity and risk management baked in. The Academy is linked in the description of this video, so go check it out now. Don't wait for the next crisis to push you into action. Build your playbook before the storm hits. Now, let's get into the heart of this. Boomers were handed a script that looked like stability: get a job, stay loyal, retire on a pension, plus Social Security. Buy a house early, pay it off slowly, and ride your home equity into a comfortable old age. That worked for a thin slice of people in very specific conditions. For everyone else, it became a chase through decades of changing rules, pensions replaced with investment accounts they didn't understand, wages competing with inflation cycles, and finance evolving faster than their ability to adjust. This isn't about blame, it's about the structure, and the structure favored institutions over individuals. Here's where the cracks began. Pensions, the old guarantee, weren't just phased out. They were replaced with responsibility and complexity. A pension says, we'll handle your retirement. A 401k says, you're the portfolio manager now. Overnight, people were expected to become investors without training. They were handed glossy brochures, buzzwords like diversification, and generic advice to stay the course. The painful truth is many didn't fund those accounts enough, didn't understand what they were invested in, and didn't recognize that timing, fees, and market drawdowns could erase years of progress in a few bad quarters. And then there's debt, the silent middleman living inside every transaction. Debt is not just numbers. Debt is the claim on future energy. Boomers were told that borrowing was a bridge to a better life. In some cases, yes, structured debt with a clear payoff and disciplined terms can be leverage. But credit without strategy becomes friction. Car loans, revolving credit, second mortgages, vacations funded on a card, upgrades justified by vague promises of better times ahead. All of it eroded the safety margin. When the job ended, the debt didn't. When the market corrected, minimum payments kept coming. Debt eats the cushion, and when the cushion is gone, vulnerability becomes a lifestyle. Healthcare turned out to be the trapdoor under the rug. You don't feel it when you're young. You barely see it when your employer's paying part of it. But as you age, the bills stack, premiums rise, and co-pays become quiet taxes on limited income. And I want you to visualize savings as a reservoir. Healthcare is a steady leak drilled into the base. The longer you live, the bigger the leak. Most boomers planned for retirement like it was an event. Work stops, retirement starts. But retirement is not an event. It's an evolving set of risks. And health is the most expensive risk of all for people who assumed Medicare would carry the load. It doesn't carry all of it. And for many, it barely carries the part they needed most. Let's talk about information, not just access, but signal versus noise. Boomers didn't have the same on-demand financial ecosystems that exist now. They had gatekeepers, brokers, insurance salesmen, HR packets, and the occasional financial advisor who charged fees for access to products with fees inside of fees. Knowledge wasn't democratized, and even when it trickled through, it came packaged in complexity that punished inattention. The lesson here isn't They should have known better. The lesson is incentive alignment. When people selling you financial products benefit most from your confusion, that confusion becomes a product. Confusion compounds like interest, except it compounds against you. Home equity is the seduction that disguises fragility. On paper, your home value climbs. On paper, you look rich, but paper wealth is not cash flow. A house that appreciates but doesn't produce income is only leverage if you convert it intelligently. Many boomers didn't. Some refinanced repeatedly and watched equity evaporate through interest. Others clung to large homes far beyond necessity because identity got tied to square footage and neighborhood status. Some took reverse mortgages that felt like finally accessing the value, only to realize the slow erosion turned ownership into a countdown. Housing wealth is not liquid unless you decide to make it liquid. And every path to liquidity has costs, taxes, timing risks, and trade offs. If you didn't model it, it modeled you. Now pay attention to the work life curve. The promise was that decades of loyalty would guarantee stability. But loyalty to a company became a negotiation with moving targets, offshoring, automation, mergers, cost cutting, and the rise of contract labor redefined what job security meant. When you pin your future to an institution that evolves faster than your ability to renegotiate terms, you end up playing defense your whole career. Boomers were told, do your time, and the system will take care of you. The system adjusted, and they didn't or couldn't adjust with equal speed. That gap is where wealth slipped through the cracks. Add inflation to the stack. Inflation isn't just a number, it's a tax on people whose income is fixed and whose expenses are not. A retiree with a static payout faces dynamic cost. If you don't have assets that outpace inflation, you lose purchasing power every year, even if your account balances look the same. Many boomers thought safety meant cash, but safety without growth becomes erosion. The paradox is clear. The safer you feel in low risk instruments, the more purchasing power you sacrifice in a system designed to reward capital that takes risk and punish capital that hides. There's another layer: fees, the skim, the friction that extracts from every contribution, rebalance, and fund allocation. You don't see fees clearly because they're embedded, layered, and often disguised as expertise. A 1% annual fee sounds harmless until you realize it's a persistent claim on your compounding engine. For boomers who sat in high fee mutual funds for 30 years, the delta between promised returns and realized outcomes is not a mystery. Its math fees are the quiet siphon. And siphons don't announce themselves, they just keep pulling. When the dot-com bubble popped, many boomers saw portfolios cut in half. When the Great Recession hit, some watched home values nosedive, jobs vanish, and retirement get delayed indefinitely. People who were 5 years out became 15 years out. And for those who tried to get aggressive to make back losses quickly, sequence of returns risk punished impatience. Timing matters. Order matters. Your age matters more than your appetite. If you took big risks late, the market didn't care about your timeline. The market has no empathy, and retirement doesn't wait for your recovery strategy to work out. But here's where the cultural narrative compounds the damage. Boomers were told to enjoy life now, live a little, let your money work for you, and it'll all work out. That messaging was amplified by consumer culture, easy credit, and the normalization of lifestyle inflation. Listen carefully. Lifestyle inflation is the thief that wears your clothes. It looks like you winning, new car, better house, upgraded everything, but it takes future optionality hostage. If you're spending tomorrow's freedom to buy today's status, you're trading autonomy for approval. Many boomers made those trades because the culture rewarded them for it. The bill arrives later, and it's not itemized, it's total. The concept of retirement itself is outdated. The idea that you cross a line and never work again is a relic of a different economic era. Boomers who tried to fit their lives into an outdated model discovered that reality had different assumptions. Some kept working because they wanted to, nothing wrong with that. Many kept working because they had to. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. Emotions aside, that's the result of planning against a fantasy rather than designing a system that adapts. Flexibility beats fantasy, protection beats promises, adaptive income beats fixed dreams. Now, there's a deeper reason boomers are retiring broke that people don't say out loud. Financial literacy was never framed as identity. Work ethic was identity. The job was identity. The house was identity. But the skill of modeling numbers, risk, time, tax, and incentives, that was framed as math homework you could outsource. And when you outsource the central engine of your life, the person you hire is incentivized to optimize their outcomes, not yours. Literacy is autonomy. Without it, your future is a product on someone else's shelf. The tax code is another battlefield. Many boomers didn't optimize taxes because they weren't taught how. They took the default paths, accepted standard withholding, ignored tax efficient withdrawal strategies, and misunderstood how required minimum distributions would force taxable events. When the tax bill hits after a lifetime of saving, it feels like punishment, but taxes aren't punishment. They're rules. If you don't learn the rules, you pay the penalty in silence. Let me pivot to something that stings. Some boomers funded their kids' lifestyles and education beyond their capacity, thinking sacrifice would be rewarded later. They covered rent, cars, tuition, and emergencies that weren't structurally solved, just delayed. Generosity is noble, but generosity without boundaries becomes financial erosion. If your retirement depends on other people behaving perfectly, your plan isn't a plan. Boomers took hits to savings because life is messy. They didn't have buffers robust enough to absorb multi-year family turbulence. That's not a moral failing, it's a systems failing. We need to talk about scams and bad advice too. Whole life policies pitched as investment vehicles with returns that never materialized. Equity indexed annuities sold as safety with upside, locking people into products they didn't understand. Real estate deals that looked like guaranteed cash flow but collapsed under maintenance, vacancy, and mismanagement. The underbelly of finance is full of promises dressed like solutions. The common denominator is asymmetry. The seller knows the product, the buyer knows the pitch. Asymmetry drains wealth. There's also the psychological trap of anchoring. If you built your identity around a certain income, home value, or portfolio balance income, declines feel like failure. And you avoid selling losers or downsizing because ego is tied to the asset. Ego destroys portfolios. The market doesn't care about your feelings. The bank doesn't care about your memories. Numbers don't respond to nostalgia. Boomers who refused to recalibrate paid for the refusal twice, once in losses and again in the lost time it took to accept reality. Now, let's flip this into forward-looking clarity. This is not a laugh at boomers video. This is a warning system. If you're watching this, your choices, now, not later, determine whether you repeat these patterns or break them. First, stop outsourcing your literacy. Learn how money moves. Model your future like it's a business. You don't need to become a trader. You need to become a strategist. Understand cash flow reserves, growth assets, protective layers, and tax timing. Don't wait until you're 55 to understand sequence of returns risk. Don't wait until you're 65 to think about healthcare funding. Design the runway, not just the destination. Second, decouple your identity from consumer signaling. You don't need to prove success with liabilities that look like assets on the gram. A paid off, efficient life beats a leveraged, performative one. Upgrade your systems, not your image. Automate savings. Invest with rules. Keep your debt purposeful, short, and controlled. If it doesn't produce leverage, it's a drag. If it's a drag, cut it. Third, convert some assets into income engines. Don't worship equity if it doesn't feed you. Explore ways to turn holdings into cash flow that survives shocks. This is where literacy meets strategy. For some, that means rental properties managed with ruthless efficiency and realistic vacancy assumptions. For others, it means dividend portfolios, laddered treasuries, or business interests that are resilient under multiple economic scenarios. For many, it means building income streams from skills, consulting, content, specialized services that can flex when markets tighten. Do not build a system where you eat your principal and pray. Fourth, don't ignore emerging asset classes because they feel foreign. The name of the game is asymmetric risk with disciplined exposure. If you roll your eyes at crypto because someone lost money guessing, you're missing the point. Tools aren't the problem. Lack of discipline is the problem. Educate yourself, define allocation rules, and respect volatility. The market rewards people who do the work, not people who repeat headlines. And yes, that is why we built Angry's Crypto Academy to simplify, clarify, and teach strategies with risk frameworks instead of hype and blind speculation. Again, it's linked in the description. Go study, then act. Fifth, build buffers, plural, emergency cash reserves, insurance that actually covers what matters, legal structures that protect your assets, and simplify inheritance documentation that your family can execute without chaos. The moment you leave your future to chance, chance takes its cut. The moment you leave your family instructions written in confusion, confusion wins. Build order before crisis. Sixth, allocate time to health as aggressively as you allocate money to investments. Your body is an asset with compounding returns or compounding losses. Boomers underestimated this because health was framed as an optional sidebar. It's not. Longevity without vitality is expensive, and brutal vitality lowers costs and increases autonomy. Wealth is optionality. Health is access to that optionality. Seventh, talk about money with your family before it becomes a fight. Boomers avoided conversations that felt awkward. Silence is expensive. Clarity is cheap. If your kids think your retirement is their safety net, everyone's plan collapses. If your partner doesn't know the accounts, the passwords, the legal documents, the insurance terms, or the tax consequences, grief gets multiplied by confusion. Great families run like great companies, transparent, accountable, documented. Let's revisit the central thesis one more time with sharper edges. Boomers are retiring broke because they were asked to play a complex game without training against smarter opponents with better information under rules that changed mid match. They were told to trust systems that shifted risk to individuals and to consume signals that traded tomorrow's freedom for today's status. They weren't stupid. They weren't lazy. They were set up by incentives that rewarded their loyalty and penalized their inattention. The lesson isn't to complain. The lesson is to model. Model your life like a system that you own. Some of you will say, but we have better tools now. YouTube, books, communities. Yes, and those tools are double-edged. Access without discernment can become noise. Choose your inputs carefully. Measure your outcomes ruthlessly. No one cares about your plan when the market drops. Only your execution matters. If your plan is built on vibes, it will collapse under pressure. If your plan is built on math, rules, buffers, and adaptive tactics, pressure becomes a test, not a verdict. Now, let me anchor this in a few stories you've seen or lived. The person who retires at 62 with a modest nest egg, then a medical event takes half of it, the market takes another 20%, and suddenly the lifestyle requires part time work. The couple who clung to the big house because selling felt like defeat, then property taxes and maintenance ate their savings. The parent who co signed loans out of love, then absorbed payments for years, exhausting their runway. The retiree who kept cash in a savings account for safety, losing purchasing power quietly until safety became scarcity. These aren't anomalies. These are the default outcomes when planning is shallow, literacy is outsourced, and culture rewards optics over substance. Flip those stories into counter moves. Sell the house when the math says sell. Ego is expensive. Keep cash reserves, but don't hold your future in dead money. Balance liquidity with growth. Say yes to helping family, but produce a written plan that keeps your retirement intact. Generosity with boundaries. Choose healthcare with the same diligence as you choose investments. Shop policies, build HSAs, plan for long term care before it becomes crisis care. Diversify assets not because someone told you to, but because you modeled how different assets behave under stress. And most importantly, build skill based income streams that don't age out when your employer decides you have. Another factor nobody wants to say publicly: older workers face age bias. You can pretend merit wins, but the market has preferences. If your plan depends on corporate kindness late in life, you built your plan on hope replace hope with design. Build systems that give you options. Boomers didn't always have those options because no one taught them to design for redundancy. You will not repeat that mistake if you refuse to outsource control. And then there's the psychological tax of regret. Regret is a cost center that bills you daily. Many boomers are carrying regret disguised as paperwork, missed opportunities, mishandled investments, unexamined assumptions. If you build your life to avoid regret, you'll pay a different tax: the tax of discipline. Discipline is expensive up front and cheap over time. Regret is cheap up front and expensive forever. Choose your tax. The most important question in this entire conversation is simple: who benefits from your confusion? If the answer isn't you, you are the product. Boomers were the product of financial narratives that made other people rich. The correction we need is to build communities and systems where your clarity compounds for your benefit, not someone else's. That's the spirit of everything we do here. Distill, clarify, act. Rage is fuel, but clarity is strategy. Strategy without execution is theater. Execution without measurement is hope. Tie them together, and your life stops being a reaction and starts becoming a designed outcome. If you're still with me, you've earned the pivot from diagnosis to momentum. Start with inventory. What do you own? What do you owe? What produces income? And what eats it? Build a simple, honest map. No performative numbers, no aspirational valuations, reality only. Then define rules. How much cash reserve is enough? What's your monthly investment flow? What assets require attention and what can be automated? What fees are you paying and where can you cut? What insurance do you have and what gaps exist? Who has access to documents if you can't? Put it all in writing. Your future self will thank you, and your family will avoid chaos that costs more than money. Next, upgrade your skill stack. Learn a small number of enduring skills that align with market demand and your strengths. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're building cash flow resilience that outlives corporate preference and macro cycles. Whether that's content creation, consulting, coding, copywriting, design, analysis, or specialized service delivery, choose something you can do consistently at a high level and iterate. This is not a course purchase or a New Year's resolution. This is identity level work. Boomers were told identity is job title. Your identity is your value engine. Build the engine. After that, simplify. Complexity is how people lose money and lose focus. You don't need 20 different accounts and a portfolio that looks like a financial costume party. You need structure you understand and can maintain under pressure. Automate contributions, set asset allocation rules, rebalance with thresholds, not vibes. Use low fee instruments where possible, respect tax strategy, and for allocations to higher volatility assets like crypto, decide your purpose, your sizing, your conditions, and your exit logic. Personal conviction without rules is just adrenaline in a suit. Keep your lifestyle tight, not austere. Tight. Tight means aligned with priorities, congruent with goals, and respectful of future optionality. The loudest message in finance is often the quietest habit. Spend less than you earn, invest the difference, and don't confuse entertainment with progress boomers were told to consume as proof of arrival. You will choose to invest as proof of future autonomy. The day you stop buying status and start buying freedom is the day your life compounds for you instead of against you. And lastly, accept that your plan is a living document. Markets change and laws change, health changes, family dynamics change. If your plan can't flex, it will break. Build checkpoints, quarterly reviews, annual recalibrations, stress test for worst case scenarios. The goal is never set it and forget it. The goal is design it and adapt intelligently. If you do that, retirement stops being an event and starts being a phase of life where your systems outwork volatility. I'll say it with clarity and compassion. Boomers aren't retiring broke because they're failures. They're retiring broke because the system taught them stories instead of skills. And those stories collapsed under the weight of reality. The corrective is here, now, in your hands. Replace stories with systems. Replace hope with math. Replace status with sovereignty. Replace outsourced trust with earned literacy. That's how you avoid becoming an anecdote in the next generation's cautionary tale. If you want more great Angry Guy content, like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget, if you want actual strategy for protecting and safeguarding your assets and growing your wealth in a world that keeps changing the rules, check out Angry's Crypto Academy. Learn how to buy, sell, and trade crypto with a framework that respects risk, respects timing, and respects your autonomy. The Academy is linked in the description of the video, so go check it out now and build the skill stack that compounds when everything else gets noisy. Now, I want to hear from you. What did you think about what we discussed? Do you agree? Do you see the patterns we just walked through, repeating with new language and softer PR? Or do you see new traps that need to be mapped before they explode? Leave a comment on the video and share your thoughts. Be direct, be specific, and let's turn this conversation into systems that actually change outcomes. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. And cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.